Hey there, guys. Gonna preface this like I prefaced yesterday's video. Um, my reaction here, and for the next I don't know how long. My reactions are probably gonna be pretty trash. Um, so um, I apologize for that. But uh, as this currently is my only source of income, I cannot miss a day of upload. So while I would rather still be slumped in my bed mourning my dog. Um, I gotta at least uh, record something so that I have something to upload. Um, so, if you see any movement over on this side of the screen here, that's my other dog, Lily, and the blanket there is um, uh, the last resting place of my other dog. So, she's laying closer to me right now, but she's been laying on that blanket a lot. So um, yeah, I would rather not do I'd rather come in with energy and just at least try like I usually do. I feel like I'm usually pretty good about providing a proper reaction, but yeah, as I said, YouTube really isn't all that forgiving if you go off of a schedule you've established, especially a schedule you've established and kept up with for the past uh, 4 years now. So yeah. With that said, let's dive into St. Mark's Basilica by Blue.
I promise I can stop talking about Venice whenever I want. I'm just not going to because I'm having too much fun, especially when today's installment of Historical Fangirling is brought to you by my book, The Vetsad, an epic poem set in the gripping history of medieval Venice. Now, when I say historical epic poem, what does that mean in practice? Well, it's no shock to say the book echoes the core story structure of the Aeneid, where the first half is the hero's journey home, their odyssey, and the second half is the battle to save that home.
I'm curious how his book will read because as Blue has pretty much admitted, at least because I watched Daniel Green too, and I think he said this on on a video with Daniel Green. Um, I think Blue pretty much said he doesn't really read modern stuff. So I'm curious how what his writing style is going to be like. Um, so yeah, I'm just curious. I'm curious how it will. I think a lot of the concepts are very good, but of course, um, concepts aren't what necessarily will carry you through the day when it comes to writing. And I'm sure Blue is a good writer because I mean he writes these videos, but yeah, this will be fiction as opposed to a history video, or well, historical fiction. So I'm curious how it'll be. Um, yeah, I got nothing. I don't know what I'm saying.
Their Iliad. You guys watch the myth videos, you know what's up. But my crafty twist is what the journey looks and feels like. As the Marino family sails from the Black Sea past Constantinople through the Aegean
I
into
love the art though that he has shown that is in his book. Like that's really cool.
the Adriatic and home to Venice at last, they're crossing the full course of the Venetian world and telling each other stories of this island here, that battle there. Hey, was Constantinople in such terrible shape? Their journey becomes a travelogue history of Venice, with our dear Marino family unpacking it all together, learning what it means to be a Venetian, and growing as characters because of it. And then there's the entire rest of the plot with the whole ass war against Genoa and the threat of an enemy fleet parked in the Venetian lagoon. The book itself has been lovingly devised by my publisher Wraith Marks to not just be fancy for fancy's sake, but to make it feel like a real historical artifact of your very own. So the red leatherette and gold foil cover reps the colors of the Venetian flag, the painted edges and chapter headers evoke medieval manuscripts, the front and back end sheets channel antique maps and the stained glass of a cathedral, and of course there's a classical style opposite facing translation. This whole book is presented in English and Italian to make you really feel that what you're reading is a translation of something much, much older. Did I commission an entire translation of my epic poem in a language most of you can't read for vibes? Yes, Of course I did. And proudly too, damn it. But we could
Honestly, that's like the dream as an author. Or at least like I would love to have. Um, I mean, I've been working on a language for my novel for my world. Uh, and obviously, I am never going to be able to get it to a point where it's a full or it's a proper kind of language or anything. Like I'm not a linguist like Tolkien. I can't do that shit. But the dream would be to get so popular enough to be able to like afford hiring one of those like linguist people that make the fake languages for like movies and shows and stuff. Like the dude that made the Fremen language for Dune. I think it's the same guy that made High Valyrian and Dothraki for Game of Thrones. Love to just pay one of those people like make language, and then I just take that language, I translate my books into that language, and just have that there too. I just feel like that'd be so like fucking cool.
couldn't simply stop there, so just like the admirable merchant Alessandro Marino, I'm thrilled to bring you some extra treasures along with the book itself. First off, all the books will be signed by me, nice, but our Kickstarter campaign also features enamel pins of the Genoese Griffin, Lion of St. Mark, and that sick V logo from the front of the book, as well as signed prints of the front and back end sheets. This campaign is in its final week on Kickstarter, but if you're watching after the fact, we'll have updated links below for where you can grab a copy of the Vetsad and all the other goodies. This book is a 7-year dream come true, and your support thus far has been an honor, a joy, and a surprise, because holy crap, look at that counter go. So, 1 week left if you haven't already gotten a copy. Time we change topics and talk about some domes. Imagine for a moment that you've just come into possession of a very important set of bones. Don't judge me like that, that's a perfectly innocent statement, and this line of inquiry is purely for science. Because that's exactly what happened in 829 when the Republic of Venice welcomed the assorted bones of St. Mark the Evangelist to their new forever home. The first order of business was to high-five and gloat, but the next immediate priority was giving their new patron saint a suitable church. Because for all the Venetians' outward displays of markitude over the centuries on ducats and flags and statues, one monument flies high above the rest, and that of course is La Basilica di San Marco, St. Mark's Basilica, the centerpiece church at the heart of Venice. On sight alone, it's imposing, it's ornate, it's domed, what's not to love for a Venezia Boo degenerate like me, but more than all that, this church
Oh yeah, I climbed that in Assassin's Creed.
is the Venetians' most
I
elegant
remember.
expression of their cultural identity and the distilled essence of their place in history. So, to see how St. Mark got his Bella Casa Nuova and appreciate that no one builds a basilica like Venice, let's do some history. Our tale of beauty and brickwork begins in 829 when Giustiniano Participazio commissioned a new church just north of his palace, intending that the shrine for Mark's freshly imported bones would double as the Doge's personal chapel. But this was only the first of 3 buildings that would occupy this spot, as the original caught fire in 976. It wasn't completely destroyed, as Doge Orseolo seems to have patched it up on the quick, but the Venetians saw fit to rebuild it entirely a century later. See, in the 1000s, Italians up and down the peninsula were struck by a fever I'm very familiar with: architecture brain rot, and they proclaimed their burgeoning civic pride through church building. Pisa's cathedral is a standout example, but countless other cities were in on it too, like Florence, Bari, and, of course, Venice. Work began in 1063 under Doge Contarini, but several years into the construction, panic set in with the Venetians lost track of their saint. See, for safety reasons, only 3 people knew exactly where Mark was buried. What, afraid someone's gonna steal him? Nah, who would do that? But the secret keepers had all long since died, so by the time the church
He was still theoretically in the church, but with no one alive knowing where, he may as well have been gone forever. And what's the point of even having a St. Mark's Basilica with no mark? Alexandrian Christians have opinions on this.
was finished in 1094, the Venetians were embarrassingly saintless. Nonetheless, the basilica was consecrated with 3 days of fasting, and on the final day, a pillar collapsed, not a great sign for a new church, but oh well,
Nope.
to reveal their misplaced Mark. Whereupon he was immediately buried in the new crypt
What
so
the
they would not
fuck?
lose track of him again. Cheers and hugs all around, Venice has its centerpiece church. This is a classic medieval legend of the trust me bro variety, first attributed centuries after the fact, but given how much grief the Venetians would cause in the name of St. Mark, I like to imagine them sweating about it for a few years. No power on earth could ever keep Venice humble, but maybe we can at least keep them anxious. So at the turn of the 1100s, Venice was back to baseline on saints and up one basilica, and I dare say the Lagoon lads nailed it. In a city still made almost entirely of wood, at least until fires in 1106 and some hastily updated construction regulations, the basilica and neighboring Palazzo Ducale were the only buildings made of brick and stone. Yet,
How do you catch on fire when you're literally sitting on water? kind of cringe, bro.
For all the uniqueness of its material, the bigger statement by far was its style. The basilica was heavily inspired by churches from the Byzantine East, so instead of a rectangular Latin cross floor plan and Romanesque design sensibilities common in Italy at the time, St. Mark has a squared up Greek cross and all the aesthetic touches you'd sooner see in Constantinople than some literal backwater lagoon. All brick construction with the odd marble panel for fun, and 5 arches across the front with a lower tier of half-domed recesses for entryways. Then pass through those to behold the real Byzantine flair inside, where 5 soaring domes bathe the basilica in golden light, and every surface of the ceiling, from dome to arch to apse, is studded with exquisite mosaics by master Greek artisans. And of course the floors were all marble mosaic too, because obviously. Unlike most Catholic churches where the altar is just kind of there, the East had ceremonial screens called an iconostasis, separating the holiest of holy spaces from the Lord's adoring fanbase. And while the exterior will continue fancying up as Venice trades and occasionally raids their way to riches and glory, it's remarkable to consider the interior was this impressive right out the gate. Now, as a professional, I have a responsibility to provide you with more insightful analysis than look at it, but I mean, holy golden you guys, look at this! Us moderns are a little desensitized to gold from so much casual exposure, but even from our perspective, the sheer vastness of this gilded canvas is stunning. Tides of gold rolling along the domes and arches like the very waves Venice commands. Every arcing surface lovingly adorned even further by the medieval world's most laborious medium of artwork. It's all the same gilded palette, so it's never overwhelming, yet the closer you look, the more you see. I take pride in making architecture easy to understand, but all this almost defies explanation. It seems so darn simple, a shiny yellow ceiling, but it's more. The flawless combination of material, design, and form to create a sense of pure jaw-dropping awe. Gold has never looked more gorgeous, more opulent, or more engrossing than it does right here in Venice. God, it's so pretty. Now that's out of my system, what was that about getting even fancier? Right, the outside. Because St. Mark's began as a quintessentially Byzantine edit.
Shout out to the Basilica's Museum for having a high-res illustration of the Basilica's original facade. When Cyan and I visited Italy 2 years ago, I went out of my way to snap a picture of it because I knew I would use it.
Okay. This, but with a few centuries of care, attention, and lots of theft, it would become a poster boy for the Republic's very own style, Venetian Gothic, which, in the simplest of terms, combines influences from Byzantine Gothic and Islamic design and makes it really pointy. In the 1200s, Venice capped the outer domes with even taller domes on top of them. Then in the 1400s, they added ornate marble pinnacles above the arches and crockets atop the facade. All that together gave the basilica its unmistakable silhouette, a stellar balance of opulence and elegance that pairs gorgeously with the Doge's palace right next door. A very apt visual metaphor for the two wings of Venice, the authority of the Republic and the prestige of St. Mark. The sheer architectural heft transcends being a good dome, or 5 of them in this case. This is the kind of artistry that wins culture. By design, the basilica is kind of a big deal, focal point of religious culture, an emblem of civic identity, etc., but it's also a microcosm of Venice as a whole, representing the evolution of Venetian identity over time. First engaging in shameless Byzantine appropriation, albeit at a very high bar of quality, then drawing on multiple sources to create something part of yet distinct from all of them. But copying Byzantine art homework is hardly the worst thing Venice ever did to them, because where did those bronze horses come from? While we're at it, how about all those precious marble panels, columns, and statues? Uh-oh, guys, I think my fave is problematic. Yes, for all the nice we've covered so far, there's one...
Everything across literally all of history has its nice as well as its yikes. Our job as learners is to recognize both, celebrate the nice, and criticize the yikes.
Unavoidable yikes. The stories of Venice and its basilica are inseparable from utterly trashing the ancient imperial capital of Constantinople in 1204. Their justification for that Fourth Crusade was lacking, but boy oh boy, those sailors were sacking, looting all the treasures they could carry and prying off entire parts of buildings to bring back to the lagoon. The walls of the basilica became an open-air treasury of precious marbles, statues, and columns, but by far the greatest spoil was the quadriga of immaculate bronze horses taken from the Hippodrome Stadium and rechristened as the Horses of St. Mark. This whole escapade is undoubtedly the biggest raw triumph in Venetian history and their most enduring source of shame, echoing the original theft of old marquee bones from Alexandria in 829 with 1204's plunder to end all plunders. And that is the inextricable thorn in the basilica's hypnotically beautiful rose. This church is Venice in miniature, for better and so much worse. Venice was a crafty little thief, and this was a project well worth their tricksy talents. It began as eager participation in the tradition of their forebears, and then took on a uniquely Venetian character as the head of a style that's gorgeous and entirely their own, an iconic aesthetic that came to adorn nearly every church and palazzo in the lagoon. And what I might love the most about it is that they kept going. After the Renaissance hit, the Venetians applied the new techniques of the era back into mosaics. This piece from 1506 has more depth, more detail than all but the best medieval work, and especially by the 16 and 1700s, the Venetians played with posing and dynamic composition in ways that were outright impossible beforehand. It's not that new equals better, but with time, even a format as seemingly rigid as mosaic art evolved into a blend of Byzantine and Renaissance that only Venice could have created, and that is identity proclaimed in a way only artwork and architecture can. St. Mark's Basilica is a masterpiece of Byzantine, of Gothic, of Venetian artistry, but at a visible, dreadful, lionized cost. It is the most arrestingly gorgeous reminder that the Lion of Mark carried a book and a sword. Thank you for watching. If you want
And that was History Summarized St. Mark's Basilica. Yeah, this was a good video, though. I found it hard to kind of follow along with, but that might be due to my current mental state, so I'm not gonna put that on blue for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.